Hi guys, it's Beth here today on the Scrapping for Less channel, and today I'm going to be showing you a sneak peek of the July 2020 Flavor of the Month card kit. And today I'll be working with collection number 1, which is called Tropical Vibes, and we'll be using some of the pattern paper and this cute little Tropical Vibes stamp set that came in the little collection. So there were some watercolor paints that came in the banana split level, and I decided to try those out. And to be honest, I can't tell you the last time I used watercolors on something other than, painting that I was making with my daughters. I don't know that I've truly ever used watercolors on my paper crafts. I lead a sheltered little craft life, apparently, so I was a little worried about how this was going to go, but I found a nice fine tip brush, and it actually worked out much better than I thought. So I don't do anything really spectacular here. I'm just doing some basic shading. I tried to pull some inspiration from the toucans that were in the paper and the ephemera that came in this collection. And so I just pulled the toucan stamp from the stamp set and then just decided to do some yellow on his face and belly, and then add in a little bit of orange to take away some of the brightness of the yellow on his face. And then his beak, I made mostly orange, but based on the toucans that were in the collection, I kind of faded it out to a little bit of a yellow orange mix at the tip, and then even some black. So here I'm just adding the black to his body. And again, I don't do anything fancy here. I'm just trying to get the shade of black that I want. Like a nice, dark, solid black. But the paints worked really well, and I had found this fine tip brush, which I'm glad, because I don't have a very steady hand when it comes to things like this. So here I add just a little bit of black to the tip of his beak, like the toucans in the collection, and then I'm just trying to kind of blend it in a little bit. One thing I like about these kits is they include things that I wouldn't normally buy for myself, or that I'm afraid to try sometimes, and so I tend to stay away from them. But because they're in the kit, I always think, ooh, I need to use these. And so it's a really nice challenge and a way to kind of stretch myself and try things I wouldn't normally try. So like watercolors. We've had watercolors. I have watercolors in my drawer that I think somebody gave me, but I had just never, I've always been scared to use them, but they were in the kit. And so I'm like, I should use them. And it really wasn't that bad. So thank you, Teresa, for stretching me. So I just showed you, it was a Mojo Monday sketch number 300, and this is one of the sketches on the sketch sheet that you can download with the July kit. And just thought it would be a fun way to showcase several of these awesome papers in this collection. And I've decided to use a white card base. It's just an A2 standard size 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base, and I'm going to mat all of my pattern paper pieces on some black cardstock just to help tie them together and break up some of the patterns a little bit. But I really like this. It's kind of an ombre, like watercolor rainbow look pattern. I wanted to pull it in to help break up some of like the boldness of the other two, the black and colored patterns that I wanted to use here. So a lot of great patterns in this collection. It's very fun to use. So there is a fishtail element on this particular layer, and so my hack for trying to create two layers that, like a matte layer with a pattern paper layer, is I just make sure that the pattern paper is all the way down at the bottom of my matte cardstock layer, and then just do the fishtail together. That way I know the fishtail is going to line up, because if I try to do them separately, they're going to be wonky. So I'm trimming down on my toucan piece. I decided to leave him just on that white cardstock, and I'm going to back him with some black cardstock as well. And then this was one of the hibiscus flowers that I had watercolored, and I'm just taking a black marker, and since I fussy cut out like right up to the edge of the stamp, I'm just trying to clean up the edges a little bit and make that black line stand out a little bit more. So then I'm pulling this little bitty sentiment stamp from the stamp set, and it says, "Toucan, do anything," which I thought was so fun. And I stamped it crooked the first time, so I come back and I stamp it again. But it's such a fun little sentiment and like a good encouragement, message of encouragement. So I'm going to trim that down to a little fishtail piece as well, and that's going to come off the edge of my layers here. So now it's just a matter of, now that I have everything kind of laid out and know where I want it to go, I get to just put everything together. So I use a combination of the Nuvo wet glue, and especially I had started using it on this piece where I watercolor the toucan, just because it gets a little bit warped when you watercolor it, and so I wanted to make sure that it had a strong adhesive, and then just thought I would continue with the wet glue on all these pattern paper layers as well. And then once I get all of my pattern paper onto the matte layers, I decide to switch to ATG just because I don't have to wait for dry time. And you do see an extra set of fingers show up here every once in a while, and that would be my youngest daughter who was helping. And she did actually go run and grab my glue dots at one point, so she was helpful. But we were discussing the card and all the layers and the pretty colors as I was crafting. So, and then here I realize I need something behind that fishtail piece, because with the layers on that piece that's underneath it, it kind of droops when it's hanging off the right side there. And so I tried some foam dots and they were too thick, and so I ended up just going with a strip of that black cardstock, a scrap that I had, and then just folded it over, and it was the perfect depth. So I'm just trying to make sure I have the alignment right of that circle before I adhere it down permanently. And then I'm also going to put some cardstock scraps underneath the top part of the toucan as well, because it's hanging off that circle layer. And then the sketch called for the sentiment to be kind of underneath the flower element, and I end up just putting mine, I tuck mine underneath my square with the toucan on it, and then add the flower on top of the square, just because my sentiment is kind of wider than my little flower there, and so I just tucked it up underneath that toucan layer. And then let the fishtail part of it hang off over the edge of the circle layer there. So while I'm waiting on the glue dots to come my way, I'm just using a black pen to highlight his eye and eyelashes a little bit because they got a little faded as I watercolored over them. So I was just trying to darken them up a little bit. And then I just use a glue dot to add my hibiscus down. And my card is done. I hope you guys have enjoyed this card and the sneak peek at the July 2020 Flavor of the Month card kit. As usual, it is full of fun patterns and stamps. And stay tuned this week for more sneak peeks from our other design team members. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll see you again real soon.